Let's roll. Level 3 has begun. This is SportsRage. I am Morency. They're playing hockey right now in the Emerald City. 2-1 for the Las Vegas Golden Knights early in the third period of play over to Seattle Kraken. NBA basketball. Sacramento are a crazy team, man. Like Sacramento, like if Sacramento were a college basketball team with the like March Madness, like who would they be the equivalent of? BYU, maybe. Like Sacramento would be no. You know there. Seattle just scored. We got a tie game 2-2. You know who they are? They're Kentucky. That's who Sacramento are. Hey, leaving De'Aaron Fox there for you, Tommy. Kentucky. That's who they're Kentucky, Sacramento. Like the Sacramento Kings are capable of like beating anybody, right? I don't know about like in a 7-game series, but like if the Kings are balling and everything's, you know what I mean, they show up and everyone's on their game. Sacramento can compete with, Minnesota's the 1 seed. They can beat Minnesota, right? Like it's not like Minnesota are much better than they are, but Minnesota are a hell of a lot more consistent than they are. Like, you don't know what you're going to get with Sacramento. Look at the other night. Sacramento, they're down by 19 to the Lakers, and then they end up like drilling them for the rest of the game. They're just absolutely murdering the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. They're about to go wire to wire. All right, like Sacramento are good, but I find them to be frustrating that they're not consistent enough with what they do. But they're a talented basketball team. But I have a hard time like buying in. They're a fun team to bet on. Normally I can read them pretty well. Their games are usually close. Milwaukee are just hitting a wall here tonight. As soon as Milwaukee this, Milwaukee that, they're dialing it up. Shout out to everyone joining us on SiriusXM channel 159. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. It's the Twisted Tuesday. Teams are punching their ticket to the dance. Mr. Sean Higgs is going to step up. And then Big Man on Campus was supposed to join us tonight. But I don't know like if there's some sort of internet power outage, maintenance work, or something that's going on in the East Coast because Big Man on Campus isn't alone. I didn't just take it as an excuse or something like that he made up. He basically said, no, I just lost my internet. And I know this because our boy, we've got guys in New York who told us before the show started that around midnight Eastern tonight, the internet could get pulled for some of them. So we've been warned about this. These companies, if you're going to do this stuff, midnight's too early. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get mad sometimes, you know what I mean? The cable company or whatever, you're watching TV, it's 3 a.m. It happened to me the other night. It popped up and it said mandatory whatever. Said your box is going to shut off and turn on and it's going to be like 30 minutes. I wasn't happy about it, but I thought, if you're going to do this, I guess 4:15 a.m. is probably a good time to do this. So, and get it done. So, yeah, no Big Man on Campus, but Mr. Sean Higgs will step up and in. And Sean's in Texas, so hopefully there's no power outages. Although, isn't there a bunch of fires in Texas right now? But, yeah, Sean Higgs on the radar. Look forward to Sean's picks. We'll get into the college basketball future. So I was talking about USC earlier. And as I said, I don't think USC are going to win the Pac-12 conference tournament. But I do think they're a play-on team for a couple of games. I think they're going to beat Washington tomorrow. We'll see who they get after that. But I think USC will make things interesting this week. But looking at the numbers that are posted here, the American Athletic is set to tip off. The AAAC and Florida Atlantic. We talked about this with Kyle Hunter. Great job by Kyle last night breaking these tournaments down. So we know about Florida Atlantic. They went on the deep run last year. They're the favorites at plus 175. SMU are plus 400. Memphis are plus 500. South Florida are plus 500. We discussed last night how, South Florida are, if we're looking for the value pick, South Florida's the play, right? Like they could win. They could make it to the final. You get that big number. You could, suddenly you're going in the title game. You could put yourself in a nice head situation. You could play the other side and walk away with money either way. So I don't have a problem with the South Florida look, but I know it's not sexy. I know they didn't have the best year, and I just wish it was like plus 250 or something. But I do think Florida Atlantic are going to win. SMU are flaky. Memphis are flaky. This, South Florida are good, but are they going to knock off Florida Atlantic? Same with North Texas, right? Like I said, I think South Florida, the only other team you made an argument for, but I just wish you were getting better odds. But I do think Florida Atlantic are going to win that conference. The ACC is, I'm not going to say it's a two-team tournament. And one thing with Duke and North Carolina, like we talked about, Bill Self is resting some of his starters for the Big 12 tournaments, will scratch Kansas. But Duke has liked to win this tournament over the years. They actually have liked to win this. North Carolina's been hit or miss with it. Roy Williams never was really a big conference tournament guy. Let's roll. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. The pips, the players, the hustlers, the people that bust them, and everybody else in between. Let's do this thing. Level 3 has begun. Welcome to the Rage. We've been kicking it for 120 minutes, but we got 180-minute full-court press going on. Shout out to all of our AM radio affiliates and joinings, including the Mightier 1090 ESPN Radio in the house on a SportsGrid radio and television network. The Seattle Kraken have just scored seconds ago to take a 3-2 lead. And I can tell that they sell Modelo at the arena in Seattle because Seattle Kraken fans are crushing Modelos and celebrating the goal, a 3-2 lead over the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm on the Seattle Kraken to win this hockey game, but I'm also on the under 6.5, and I'm a little bit concerned this game is really starting to open up right now. St. Mary's and Gonzaga never opened up tonight. Gonzaga just couldn't get on track. St. Mary's beats them. And rather easily, too. 69-60 was the final score in a basketball game that St. Mary's was pretty much in control of all night long. It's a late night tonight as far as conference tournament action. In the late night hours, we've got Niagara and Siena at the half. Siena are up 32-31. They were 10-point underdogs in this game. Montana handling their business right now over Idaho State. Montana up 49-33. We've got some women's college basketball going on as well. Mr. Sean Higgs is going to step up and in from the Lone Star State. We'll run the gauntlet, take a look at the overnight lines for college basketball's conference tournaments. NBA basketball, the Clippers and the T-Wolves in action. And the T-Wolves are starting to pull away. The Clippers were up early. Rudy Gobert is back for the Wolves tonight, and he makes all the difference in the world to this team. From a defensive perspective, they've held the Clippers to just 87 points. T-Wolves up 99-87 with 7 minutes left. Meanwhile, the Sacramento Kings are absolutely destroying the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. Derrick Henry, as a lot of people expected, signs with the Baltimore Ravens. Aaron Jones is a Green Bay Packer. We'll break it down and more on the other side. Bring it.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
4.22. The fat man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency, the pistol players, losses, the people that bust them, and everybody else in between. What a wild week of sports craziness this week between the conference tournaments, the National Football League free agency, Major League Baseball set to begin as well. And who would have thought, man, how many like players have signed in the National Football League before Blake Snell has signed a contract, which is pretty whacked out. People talking about, Trevor Bauer. How come Trevor Bauer isn't getting signed? Trevor Bauer's not getting signed because he's kind of a jackass. Let's just call it out for what it is. I don't even think it has anything to do, right? Like I saw John Boy Media was talking about, and others, because, he pitched for the Japanese Japanese touring team the other day, in which 0 Major League Baseball scouts attended. Right, so people are talking about, well, how come he's not getting signed? And the thought is, well, whatever team signs him will have like a backlash. But what backlash? Like, seriously, what backlash would there be? There are players like Trevor Bauer, say what you will about him, but he didn't do anything. He never got arrested for anything. He never, somebody sued him and he won the lawsuit. Like, somebody sued him and didn't win. Right, so from a legal standpoint, right, look at Urias. Urias, that was the Dodgers only got rid of him the second time after he pushed his wife, allegedly, whatever the hell happened at the soccer game. But he's not on the team anymore, right? But there's a lot of dudes, man. Chapman, whatever. There's a lot of dudes in baseball. Guys pulled guns on their wives, this and that. They're in the league. So this whole like backlash thing, I think it's more so teams don't trust him, right? Just teams don't trust Trevor Bauer. That if it's not that, he'll do something else. He's going to cause a controversy. It's going to be about him. There's so many reasons why, but I don't think it's a backlash. Blake Snell, I don't get. Like, I don't, people say, well, Scott Boras. Well, at some point, like, it's kind of strange that one of the best pitchers in the game is unsigned. He hasn't been sued for having sex in sex dungeons. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like what's the deal with Blake Snell? Right? The word jury's still out right now on Garrett Cole. Word out of New York is that it's not even going to be Blake Snell, that the Yankees are pursuing and trying to pull off the deal to get Dylan Cease, just for the record, from the White Sox, who I think could be a good underplay this year here. I think this White Sox team could be a massive train wreck this year. They didn't quite make the cut, though, as far as my win total best bets yet. But we'll get into that in the next couple of days. We've got time. I want to get to the NFL before Sean Higgs joins us. It's been a weird couple of days here in the NFL. There's been like a flurry of activity. A lot of it is just sort of shuffling the deck of the Titanic, as I stated earlier, right? You know, free agency is a lot like it's Christmas time. And the parents, the adults are the owners and the general managers, and the kids are us, the fans. And fans want shiny new, like kids. They want a new toy on Christmas Day, right? And what happens to kids' toys a couple of weeks after Christmas? They don't care about them anymore. They don't like them, or they're broken, right? What happens to every free agent signing is a great one. Every team is it's great, and it's a great fit, and it's great, and this and that and stuff. It's like, wow, you know, if these players are so great, they would still be on the same teams that they were on. I'm not saying that some of them can't help. Seattle just scored again. But there's been a lot of teams in which, like, the quarterbacks, like yesterday with Gardner Minshew and the Raiders, like, what message, like, what, no one really knows what the Raiders are doing. Like, what's your plan? Gardner Minshew, your quarterback? Or are you drafting a quarterback and that's it for Aiden O'Connell? That's, you know what I mean? You're moving on from that experiment already, which I kind of think that's probably what the deal is, that O'Connell's done, and they'll draft a new quarterback as well and bring one in, and sort of Minshew can be the original guy. Drew Lock gets brought into New York, which, you know, Daniel Jones gets hurt all the time, but all right, so does this mean they're not drafting a quarterback? You know, we're trying to read between the lines, so we, looking at the NFL draft props moving forward. And then you got the Vikings that come in today with Sam Darnold, which the crazy thing is, O'Connell's a good enough coach that he could win some games with Sam Darnold. The thing is, you know, how many games are you winning, and are you really, this is your plan, Sam Darnold, after all this? So, similar situation. Is Sam Darnold really going to be the starting quarterback of the Vikings? And or is he going to be sort of a guy there and they're going to draft somebody and they'll let it play out? There's a lot of confusion in the NFL right now with this stuff. Dear God, it's a goal fest suddenly. This game just opened up in a big way. 4-3 right now for the Seattle Kraken. They took a 4-2 lead. Now it's 4-3 with 7 minutes left. The Vegas Golden Knights are not going away in this hockey game. The game has gone over the number. Hell, the total was 5.5 in this game. I just lost it in game 6.5. I've got the Seattle Kraken as well, but I got greedy and pushed the envelope. Derrick Henry to Baltimore, you can't argue it, right? Even like if you're like, you can't hate on it in any real stretch of the imagination. I never really thought Derrick Henry was as done as people made him out to be with Tennessee. It's kind of hard. It was kind of hard if you're Derrick Henry over the last couple of years. If, like, Tennessee's offensive line wasn't very good anymore. So you're a running back, the offensive line isn't very good. Look at the quarterbacks. Look at the quarterbacks that Derrick Henry had to deal with over the last couple of years. Tannehill was okay for a little while, but it's been a train wreck since. Tannehill hit a wall, got old fast. The young guys haven't been very good, right? Like, Derrick Henry has not been in a very favorable situation, and he still steamrolls people. He still averages 4.5 yards a carry type of deal, right? So now you put him on a good football team that doesn't have to carry the load, so he's going to be scary with Baltimore. Like I said, I don't fall for every free agent like signing. He is going to be scary though. Like, he's, the guy's a beast, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? The guy's a beast. He can still run downhill at you. He's not going to have to carry the football right now 20, 25 times a game. They're going to have like some crazy zone read options now and RPOs with Lamar and Henry. They're going to create some matchup problems. Like I said, like if you're in the AFC, you look, it's like, wow, yeah, that makes them a tough team. You know what I'm saying? Like, Derrick Henry on the Baltimore Ravens is legit. I like what Green Bay did though. Like, you look at Green Bay, they bring in Xavier McKinney tonight as well from the New York Giants, who's a very, very good player. So you've got a good young player in the secondary right now. You bring in Josh Jacobs as well. We saw Green Bay start to explode and really start to develop as the year went on and compete like at a high level, the Green Bay Packers with Jordan Love. I think we know that Jordan Love is going to be good. Their young wide receivers really started to get good. Incidentally, funny without Aaron Rodgers, like putting him down all the time. So, Green Bay, I like what they've done in this offseason, and that division is going to be interesting suddenly, right? Like the Detroit Lions are good now, but the Lions aren't invincible. The Minnesota Vikings, I'm curious to see how this all plays out with the Vikings, but the Vikings get Aaron Jones. There's been a lot of this division-to-division stuff. Patrick Queen, Baltimore Ravens, signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like that, too. I like what the Steelers have done. The Steelers are so reliant on what? On the defensive side of the football. And I'm in the minority in this, but I think Russell Wilson's a good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the sense that, listen, man, Sean Higgs would have been a better fit than Kenny Pickett moving forward, who's going to join us in a couple of minutes. So, say what you will about Russell Wilson. He was like 26-8 last year. What, 26-9 last year?
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Let's roll. This is SportsRage. I am Morency. The LA Clippers were laying 5.5 points tonight to the visiting Minnesota Timberwolves. We did take the T-Wolves plus the points tonight. Rudy Gobert back in the lineup. Wow. 118-100. A night, two late games tonight that we thought could be pretty cool games with Milwaukee and Sacktown and Minnesota and the Clippers. Minnesota destroyed the Clippers when it's all said and done. 118-100. That's why when people talk, the Clippers are dangerous and the Clippers can beat the Nuggets and stuff. Yeah, in theory, but will they? Right? The Clippers are one of those teams, as soon as you start to think, yeah, you know what, these guys really are contenders, they'll sort of remind you they're not. Let's bring in Mr. Sean Higgs right now and see if he's a degenerate enough that he has any money on the Siena-Niagara game right now. That's the big game going on right now, bro.
Yeah. No Siena-Niagara money. No.
I did, but I got eliminated. I had a parlay going, but I already lost a leg of it, so I'm out. I had Niagara on the money line, but I'm out now.
I did have the Kings going, so I got Sacramento tonight. And you mentioned the Clipper spot. Gobert's playing. Wasn't he supposed to be out? Like, wasn't talk he was supposed to be out indefinitely or something? Wasn't he hurt?
He has been hurt, but he wasn't. Back. So, he was like a day-to-day type of week, couple of days type of deal.
What did this line close? Did it come down? Because I thought it was like
5.5 it closed.
Come on with the Clippers. Minnesota's a good team. They play. It's a rare team that actually plays defense. They're getting 5.5.
Yeah, the thing is, people have overreacted with Karl Anthony Towns being out, and they were 2-4 in the last 6 games since it happened. But it's deceptive. Yeah. As good as Karl Anthony Towns is, and he is good, he puts numbers up. He's not nowhere near as important to that team as Rudy Gobert is.
Exactly.
And you talked about their defense. Like, they give up a league least 106 points a game, bro.
Yep.
Because of Rudy Gobert. He's the best, him and Wembanyama, the two dudes from France, are the best defensive players in the league. Right?
Yeah,
you can argue Wembanyama, but Gobert's the kingpin of defense in the NBA. He really is good at it.
I got a future on these guys to win the West.
The T-Wolves.
Somebody's, it's like an ascension. Like I thought they were good last year, but they made the trade for Gobert, so they kind of got to work their kind of kinks out. So this year I figured, all right, I'm not going to bet the Clippers or the Lakers or the Warriors or the Mavericks. That's a bunch of teams with injury concerns, right? For me, that's somebody could get hurt somewhere, and then.
What you're saying, there's got to be a changing of the guard at some point in time.
Yeah, right. Everybody's kind of high on the Thunder, but I think they still got a little. Okay, they're in first place overall, whatever. But you got to kind of.
They don't play defense great either. That team.
Yeah,
they're okay if they want you, but they're not great at it, and they're young.
You got to learn. You got to learn to do that and get to the next step. You just don't jump into the top spot. You got to take some.
No, I agree with you. You know what? Last year, I kind of felt like an idiot because I bought in. Remember when they traded for Rudy Gobert? They got laughed at. Everybody laughed at them. Oh, you gave up way too much. Gobert doesn't do anything. He only scores 14 points a game. And he only plays defense. Okay, fine. They knew what they were doing, and I bought in. I also like Chris Finch. I knew that Finch was a good coach and stuff. So I was like, this guy's a good coach, and he's got these good players. He's going to figure it out. I like Edwards a lot, too. He's a great young player. But as you stated, and it was weird, they didn't not get along personally, but on the court it wasn't working, right? It was like a transition thing. Karl Anthony Towns had been the star there for years, but they weren't good. So he's putting up numbers all the time, but they weren't good. Suddenly Anthony Edwards is kind of better than him, right? And it's all right, listen, Kat.
What's happening? Yeah.
Yeah, this guy, he's kind of the guy we want to get the ball to now.
You didn't do nothing when you were doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
Let's spread it around here and try to win some games.
And then Gobert gets dropped in, and Gobert was really in Karl Anthony Towns' way. Because Cat can shoot the three, but he likes to take it to the rack. And so Karl Anthony Towns, even he was out of sorts. They weren't working, and then it looked bad because Gobert punched. I forget who he punched. He punched one of his teammates last year near the end of the year on the bench.
J.R. Ryder or Tom Gugliotta? Who was it?
Yeah, old school. Yeah. So then everyone's like, "Oh, it's dysfunctional," and they're this and that. But I swear to God, I took them. I remember they played the Nuggets in the playoffs last year, and I was crazy enough to believe in them and take them. I was like, you know what? They're actually not bad, this team. Like, they're low to deal with. And they hung around with Denver. They beat them one game. They went to overtime in another one. Like, sort of like what you were just talking about, Sean, the growth. They know what it's like to be in the playoffs. They'll be like, no, man, we won a play-in last year. We played the Nuggets last year. We know what to do now, you know? And Edwards a lot better now, bro. Like, he's breaking out now.
I think it's an overlooked aspect. You know, unless you have some kind of super team, and even then, it takes some time, right? We talk about that all the time, and college team gets a bunch of 5 stars. It's gonna take time to move the ball. Who's gonna take the shot? Who's the lead guy? You know,
NFL is kind of the only league you can go worst to first. It happens every year. You go worst for first, but other leagues it's impossible. Like NHL, you're not like, if you're bad in the NHL, you're gonna be bad for 10 years.
Well, the NFL, you can catch lightning in a bottle, though. You get a weak schedule, and all of a sudden your defense plays above its head, and a couple breaks here and there.
The NFL's smart where they do it. They're like, all right, let's give the worst team the easiest schedule next year, and like you could flip the script on it, right? And teams aren't as good as you think they are because of their schedule. They're weaker schedules as well. All right, so forget about the NBA. The NBA is done for the night. The 2 games in college right now. We got a close one. We'll keep our eye on this. Like I said, Niagara were laying 10 points in this game, guys, against Siena. Siena are winning 43-42 right now with 14 minutes left. In-game totals 135.5. Feels a little light, but these aren't great offensive teams. And Montana is up 10 right now at Idaho State with 5 minutes left. They're currently laying 10.5 in this game.
I think I might come in and autoplay on the Stags of Fairfield tomorrow. It's 12:30 in AC right now. This is a dog fight, maybe an overtime game. I will gladly take Fairfield tomorrow, no matter what the line.
I like where you're going with that. Little look ahead. Although these are young teams, we see some of these teams get it.
Yeah, but it's still you're playing till 1:30. You get back what? It's gonna be. It's 12:30.
It is true. It's late on the East Coast. I hope they have security on the way out in Atlantic City there. I'm bored. These kids leaving out there, like, I don't care how big they are. They're going to look around and go, man, this ain't good.
You're getting out of there at the earliest. Really, if it ends now, it's
you're right.
1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, they won't go to sleep till like 4 a.m. They'll be all fired up after. So.
Hey, listen, it's not like they have an 11 o'clock game tomorrow, right? I don't think they have the early game, but it's something. Like, come on, that's a bad schedule spot there. How do you tip this game off at 10:30 at night on the East Coast?
All right, so let me throw somebody's. I don't know what you're looking at. I wanted to get into the conference future tournament numbers a little bit. We've got a couple of minutes before the break, but let's just look at the point spreads in the morning here. I don't know how you feel about some of these games, but it's a good early one, actually. 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 Pacific. BYU minus 5.5 against Central Florida. Total 145 in that game. This BYU team is an exciting team this year. Are you comfortable laying 5.5 in this game with them?
I have already. I took BYU, and I know there were some close games the last time they played. I think BYU's a good team. I mean, it's just that simple. They could shoot. Why do I think they're going to come out here and shoot? And I always kind of tend to lean to the rested team against the team that wasn't that good a team anyway. And, I didn't like UCF today. I faded them today. It's too much. Did not win, but I'm going against them. I think BYU's a bunch of shooters. And anytime, I don't care how banged up Kansas win, you go to win at Kansas, you're automatically like, I'm giving you a little edge over any kind of mediocre, middle-of-the-road kind of team. I mean,
I think this is the best. This is the best BYU team in a long time, right? There's BYU teams, they can hit threes. They're good at home, but this is a good team. They've won on the road this year.
That is one game in camp, but it's just that's a place where really nobody wins. So that to me is a big little thing of why I kind of like them here, even though, would I rather be better laying a 4 spot instead of a 5.5? Sure, but I think they win this by 10. They should pull away here.
I think it'll be around the number, but I agree. I think the number's I think it's manageable. I think they win by 7, 8, 9 type of deal. Oklahoma and TCU's an interesting game. Great conference, obviously. I think TCU's the play here, Sean. You're in Texas.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about this one, but I think TCU are the play here.
I want to look at the under in this one. Why do I think it's an under game? Sidewise, it's basically a pick 'em at 2. Where are we going with that? To me, that means it's going to be kind of a close game, maybe defensive. I look at the under. I didn't bet it. Didn't really jump either side to me. So I was thinking anything forcing me on a show, I go under the 144.5 here.
I talked about USC. We're coming up to a break here. USC's a trendy team coming into the Pac-12 tournament. They were a trendy team coming into the year. Bronny had the heart issue. Collier gets hurt. It's been one disaster after another for them. They played better over the last couple of weeks. And a lot of people are betting them to win the conference tournament, bro. I don't think they're going to pull it off, though. Like they're not going to go all the way. They're not going to beat Arizona, but they'll beat Washington tomorrow, I think.
I took Washington because I'm like, everybody's betting USC, and I like a dummy. I grabbed it early at 1.5. It's like 3.5.
Yeah, I was just going to say you got to wait. This is going to hit 5 by tip off.
I know.
Everybody's betting USC.
You know what? I'm so confident Washington's going to win and just sink everybody's hearts tomorrow. So I don't even care that I got 1.5. They're winning that Washington outright tomorrow.
You could be right. I like your contrarian style. They're trendy USC.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. It's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of the sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22. The fact. Man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Overtime strikes again. Whenever I have a team in overtime, I never win. I had the Seattle Kraken. Vegas Golden Knights just won in overtime because, of course, they did. End-to-end action at both ends. Like, Vegas had a 2-on-1, teed one up, hit the crossbar of the goalpost. It looked like it went in. They thought it went in, but it didn't. And then after Seattle goes down the ice, sort of has an open net, kind of could finish the game off, miss the net. And then back to the other. There was literally like three times in a row. There were like 2-on-1s, partial breakaways type deals. And they won on a breakaway in overtime. Boom. Game, set, match. Vegas beat the Seattle Kraken. Mr. Sean Higgs in the house with us. I am Gabriel Morency. So, Sean, you're going contrarian here. As I stated, you didn't get the best number here because I think people are going to continue to bet on USC.
That's fine.
And I get it, though. And don't forget, like Washington, Washington are firing their coach. They're not, like, USC are in a better mindset coming into this. And I got to be honest with you, Sean, I'm part of the public Mark crew here that thinks the Trojans are poised to go on a run. But like I said, I don't think they're going to actually win the tournament, but I do think they could win some games. And they're 16-1 right now to win the conference tournament. Arizona are minus 150. Colorado are 5-1. Washington State are 6-1. The Ducks are 12-1. USC are 16. Utah are 16. Washington are 30. UCLA are 40. I would actually say, guys, from a betting perspective, that Washington State at plus 600 can't be dismissed. They're actually a good team this year. What do you think of the Pac-12, Sean?
I don't have a future in the Pac-12 simply because, I think Arizona, you say they could win a few games, USC could win a few games. Well, if they beat Washington, they have Arizona, who they just beat. Like, Arizona's not going to be like, oh, we got to reestablish ourselves because people think we're trash. So I don't even know if they win, do they get past Arizona? I don't think they do. I don't think they get past.
If they get past Arizona, though, then there's no turning back.
Because then it gets a little light. Then they get past Arizona. Then it comes your momentum because you're going to face Oregon,
right.
UCLA. I don't like Oregon. I'll take whoever Oregon plays. I'll fade Oregon in that matchup against UCLA or Oregon State. I don't care. Did they beat Arizona? It could be. Here we go. But you mentioned Washington State. That's nobody's going to talk about them. They're going to come in as an underdog because everybody's going to be high on them. Here comes USC. Well, they should have been back in November. Whatever. I'll take the points every time. Against Arizona, it's going to be a pick'em. It's going to be a pick'em because the hype on USC. Forget it. Just stop with that nonsense. Stop.
No, Arizona will be favored still, but listen, Washington could knock them off. Washington are going to be playing with house money here, right? And the thing with Washington is they're not terrible, right? They've lost a lot of close games. I've watched a lot of Huskies games this year. They're super athletic, but they're streaky shooters. They don't shoot very well, but they are an athletic team that can play with people. Like, they're not like they can compete. But I understand. Like I said, I understand. People are always looking for the sleeper, but Washington State, as Sean just said, just because USC are trendy, you don't want to forget about other teams. Washington State at 6-1 is a pretty good number. The Mountain West is another one that's going off the board tomorrow afternoon. San Diego State are currently plus 250. Utah State are plus 425. Nevada are 5-1. New Mexico State last night were like plus 750. Now they're only plus 550. So some love for a little movement with the Lobos here. Boise State are plus 650. UNLV are plus 650. Listen, UNLV are 10-2 in their last 12 games, and the only two games they lost were to Nevada, right? They lost in Vegas, and then they lost in Reno to them. So the Rebels have played good basketball over the last 3 weeks, but I don't have enough confidence to pull the trigger on them on a future here. No. We spoke with Kyle Hunter last night, and we both agreed. I think Boise State's a live team here at plus 650 at these odds, Sean, for the Mountain West. Plus 650, Boise State.
UNLV, I had on both those games versus Nevada. They are 12-7 at home. So let's just scratch them off the surface. Like any other team is 14-1, really good at home. Yeah, I don't mind losing. You go on the road, you lose against conference teams. It happens. That's fine. That's the way basketball is. It's tough. So cross
You know
them
what's
off.
weird, Sean? Vegas teams usually don't have like the Raiders don't really have a home field advantage because there's so many visiting teams, fans. The Vegas Golden Knights are all right at home, but they have a lot of visiting fans there. It doesn't really sound like a Vegas game. UNLV's problem is no one goes.
But college,
No
you
one
have a
goes.
fan. It's college. You
No
think
one
you have a
goes
home
anymore.
court at college? I can't. Again, no to them. And listen, Kyle Hunter's fabulous. He is a guy. He is a top guy. I like Kyle a lot. I have a lot of. So he likes Boise. I'm gonna say them or Nevada. I mean, both of them come in hot. I think both of them won 5 of 6 or 6 of 7. Really good. I actually took a Utah State at 425 because I'm like, I'm getting the top seed at 425 because everybody loves San Diego State because they're in the Final Four last year. They're favored. Nevada and Boise play each other, so somebody's going to get picked off there. As good as both teams are playing, so I went. It's the chalk because they're the 1 seed, but at 425, nobody's talking about them, and they took care of business against every team they had to take care of business about. That's why they're the 1 seed. I'll take a 1 seed at 425. Why wouldn't I?
I can't argue logic. And as far as Nevada, too. Nevada are dangerous as well. Like Boise or Nevada move on, and either one of them are streaky.
Here, I mentioned the BYU win at Kansas. Boise went in and beat New Mexico at the Pit. Again, another place that is really tough to win at. So, I mean, they could win anywhere. And they're playing, 5 of 6 for them, I believe, right? Is that correct? I have to pull them up. I believe they're 5 of 6 down the stretch here. Good ball.
Yes, they are. And they'll also have a big contingent. Boise fans like to travel to Vegas, all the time. When they used to play football
that's gonna
there,
be a good,
all the time.
That'll be a good semi because they'll have Nevada in the second round there. But
Fun tournament.
But let's. They have New Mexico, right? Boise gets New Mexico, who I think they beat twice. I don't have their schedule right in front of me. You know what? Hold on. I got New Mexico here. Hold on a second. They lost to Boise on the road. Yeah, Boise swept them. I mean, New Mexico is not chopped liver themselves. So I love the Mountain West this year. I mean, how can you not? All these teams. I mean, Colorado State might go on a run. Who knows? I hope that they get their six or 7 teams in. I know Colorado State's like the outlier, and New Mexico's kind of laying on the outside.
Yeah, those two. And UNLV are on the outside of that.
It's just such a competitive. If this was SEC football, all of them would be in the playoffs, right? In 2 years, when the playoff is 16 teams, all the SEC is going to be in the playoffs because they lost to a team on the road. But that doesn't happen to Mountain West basketball, which has been it's tough to say as good as the Big 12, but come on. It's better than the Big 10. Who's the Big 10? Purdue, Illinois,
the Big 10
maybe
is
Nebraska?
overrated. The Big 10 is overrated. What other one has been good? The Mountain West had a nice year this year. Yeah. But let's see how they do once they get into the tournament against other teams. That's going to be the real benchmark.
Gabe, I can't. What's going to happen when they have this guy? They're going to be facing Florida Atlantic. They'll be facing they'll be facing other mid-majors. They're not going to put them up against a good team. It'll be Gonzaga versus Utah State or something in an 8-9 game. That's what they do to the mid-majors.
San Diego
Florida
State
Atlantic and South Florida. They'll be in 5-12 games versus freaking Sanford or somebody wants to bet Grand Canyon.
Sanford
They're not going to get the big schools.
Sanford are good.
They didn't cover for me yesterday, so I'm not happy.
But I was actually on the dog. But Sanford won't be an easy team to play against. I can't wait to see who they end up drawing. But if they're in the Dayton stuff, I think they'll win their Dayton game.
Oh yeah,
and they'll get in. The thing with Sanford is they play so freaking fast. Not all teams are used to it. So even if you're whatever, we have more talent than they do. It's okay. Just let you guys know these kids score 85 points a game and they're relentless with the ball. So
I'd love to see the playing games be like Michigan State, like New Mexico, St. John's, and somebody, another, all big schools in the playing games.
Well, they always do that. They always do that. They
I
do.
mean, sometimes you get the 1/16
no,
seeds,
but
you get the 2/16s are going against each
no,
other.
but
Sometimes.
they always have the two sort of Prairie View this against whatever that
But I
Corpus
don't think
Christi
I don't,
Commerce.
that's wrong. Give that team,
No, but
give
then-
that team the seed and put them in there.
But then after they always have the Arizona State USCs of the world, right? So they have one little one. I hear you're saying they're screwing those teams over. You're right by putting them in these things, right? Like,
put them in. Put them at the 16s. Let them sit there. If they, we've seen them win already. So if you want to expand the tournament, people are like, oh, let's just make it 120. Get rid of the NIT. Like, come on. Put the bigger schools in.
There's an argument to be made. Would you rather you get those games count as an NCAA win?
Yeah,
that's a tournament win. So, like, if you're a program like that, you're actually getting a tournament win as opposed to just getting waxed. So you're getting 2 games out of it. So there's kind of a benefit to it. So, like, you actually
that's a good point.
You officially your school. Hey, you ever won a tournament game? Yeah, we've won an NCAA tournament game.
You're right.
They don't have an asterisk next to it that says Dayton. It's a tournament game. It counts as a tournament win.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
you're
for your school. You know what I'm saying? And then you get the second game and stuff. But the other one is, Sean, as you know, we all know. And I'm glad you brought it up. The play, we have time over next week. But, dude, there's always the team that gets through the play-in and then wins a couple of games and goes deep. It happens every year, bro.
I know. I can't wait to see who it is this year because somebody's going to the Sweet 16. So one of those teams will go to the Sweet 16.
Watch it be. It's going to be USC.
Could be.
USC is going to win the Pac-12 on the crappiest record. They're going to say, all right, you guys are in Dayton even though you won.
They'll be 17-17. Right? That's what they'll be, I think.
Yeah, you're right. If they run the table, you're right. They'll get up to 500 and put it over the top. So, did you bet into the other futures? Let's get to the Big 12. This is an interesting one, especially now Kansas arresting.
Yeah.
Kansas arresting guys, so they don't have any interest or care about winning this thing.
I took a Kansas on Monday at 12-1 the other day. I was like, I'll take Kansas because it's Kansas. You never know. Yeah, well, that's in the trash.
Now you know. Yeah.
I took South Carolina 50-1 and Kentucky 4-1 because they're on opposite sides down in the SEC. I grabbed Cal Davis at plus 450 in the Big West.
Interesting.
Big East, I took Creighton at 350 and I took a big shot on Nova. Nova's 20-1. I figured, you know what? They've beaten some teams. Nova's kind of frisky here down the stretch. I'll take a little Nova 20-1. And I took NC little chalky number 1 at plus 190 over Duke. I thought they were a Final Four team all year, so I'm like, you know what? Plus 190, I'll take a shot. And I mentioned the Utah State game, so Utah State 425.
Thanks. We got to get out of here, Sean. Great stuff. But I agree with you with North Carolina. It doesn't. I see plus 175 now. Doesn't seem great, but they're getting to the final, and then you're not getting them at plus 175 when they're in a championship game. Thanks, Sean.
Good seeing you again.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
4.22. The fact. Man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, we're in a 3-minute warning here. Level 3, thanks to our guest this evening, Andrew McKinnis. Mr. Sean Higgs threw it down with us in the house tonight. So we've got early morning college basketball on the West Coast and pretty early on the East Coast. The stuff gets going at noon Eastern here. Florida State and Virginia Tech. Man, I think Virginia Tech are to play. That hook is scaring me, though, at 3.5. These tournament games are close, and point spreads and points are at a premium in these games. But I do think Virginia Tech are going to beat Florida State. We talked about BYU. BYU are the real deal. I think they will cover the 5.5. I'm not going to lay the 3.5 with Tech. We can't bet every game, but I will lay the 5.5 with the BYU Cougars in this spot. I think TCU beat Oklahoma tomorrow. Minus 140 on the money line is low enough to get me in on the money line there. USC and Washington. I'm part of the public crew here on the USC Trojans. I do think they're peaking at the right time. There's always these Cinderella stories. I think they could beat Washington, and then they can cover a point spread. We'll see what happens down the road once they play Arizona again. They play against good teams, but this USC team is better than their record is. I think they get it done against Washington. Let's just take it one game at a time. But we'll take the USC Trojans here. They're minus 150 on the money line right now. Right, minus 150. It's interesting because other games are 3.5 and it's minus 165. This number's going to go up. People are going to hammer the USC Trojans. This game's in Vegas, too. And it's going to be all LA money and USC money. They're going to be trendy and stuff tomorrow. So this point spread, I'd be surprised if it's not 4.5. It could hit 5, I think. But I wouldn't be surprised if it hits 4.5. But follow me on Twitter, X, and I'll be posting some college picks throughout the day. I'm going to be on with Mike Carver on the Scott Farrell Show tomorrow at 3:25 Eastern Time, 12:25 Pacific, with some best bets for some of this action. And we'll be on tomorrow night. And it's the Players' Championship. As much as it pains me to say this, too, is there any belief that the Michigan Wolverines aren't going to get killed? Other than that, you're on your own. Later.